Well, hello everyone, and here we are again. It is that time again. Readings with Rebecca after a quick postponement from last week. Can you guys see me? Let me know if you guys can see me. I think you guys can see me. I hope you guys can see me. Yes! There we are! I am up and on the screen. Running horror while you can. Finley, I am super duper proud of you for getting going on your writing. That is awesome. We still got about 3 minutes before we are officially at the noontime hour here in the great Pacific Northwest. And once we cross that hour, we will go ahead and start talking about getting started. But we never get like, it's not just like, oh, it's noon. All right, fear, panic, the noise, the smell, big predator, something was here, run, flee, have to get away. No, we've never done that. But we will start to get a little bit more serious as it happens. Wow, I'm like all fuzzy on the screen there. Am I looking all right on your guys' screen? Let me know. I've got my broadcasting software on monitor left. I've got my YouTube interaction window on my right, and I've got the book, up right front and center on a beautiful big screen so that I can read to all you wonderful people. Yes, I have a 3 monitor setup. I have a 27-inch in the center, and then I've got two 19 old 4x3s on either side. Am I still fuzzy? It looks like we've cleared up a little bit since then, but I don't know. The internet's been awful squirrely as of late. One might think it's shifting its perspective. Oh, God. It's going to be a day like that, folks. It's just going to be that kind of day. Finley, I have immense faith in your ability to write compelling content because you are masterful at puns. And being masterful of puns requires a mastery of wordplay and evil that is necessary to succeed as an author. Alright, actually I'm going to turn on the lights here, see if you can see me better. Blinded by the light. I'm waiting to watch it just fully illumine here in the stream. Wondering how much of a delay I actually have today because, oh, there we go. Clicking and blinded by the light. Holy crap. Is that good? Do you guys like that? Can you see me better, or am I blending in with my whiteboard because I'm about as pale as Dracula on a 40-day fast? Just let me know. I'm here to respond to you. I'm cheesy, I'm corny, I'm just being myself, but, it's like a performance. A performance where you take every aspect of your vaunted personality, crank it up to 11, see what sticks, hope for the best. Well, I wouldn't know anything about being sadistic. I just wouldn't. I mean, it's not like I don't have an Ada on ice somewhere in my universe. It's not like Busy wasn't a creation of my own brain. we've got count them, two people tuning in. We normally have 4 or 5. Where is everyone? I want attention. I need attention. If a writer writes alone in a forest and the tree falls on them, does anyone care? That's a trick question. It all depends how much they've advertised their next book. The question you have to ask yourself, Finley, is, even after everything that happened in Dawnbreak, am I done doing sadistic things to Joyce? Wait till we get to Nightmare Gods. I don't think you've read Nightmare Gods yet. But Nightmare Gods is next up after popular demand. And let me tell you, Nightmare Gods is where I turn it up to 11. I was telling my partner, Alan, the other day, my IT department, that it's very interesting to me because it seems like Nightmare Gods is the most popular thing I have ever written. And I wrote Nightmare Gods as a bit of, it started off as just a bit of fun between me and another author. And so this is the thing, right? The Farthest Star Universe is my heart. It's got a lot of my own personal philosophy, my own struggles, my greatest hopes and dreams. The Farthest Star Universe, it's my longest series. I'm writing book 10 still. I'm just crossing 120,000 words. In Starfall. I think today I'd have to double check, but I'm really close to that 120,000 word mark. I think I'm going to be somewhere between 130 and 150 by the time that it's done. But Nightmare Gods, which I just wrote for fun, or started off writing it for fun, everyone loves Nightmare Gods, and Father Star like, yeah, it's cool. Buns in space, totally rad. But Nightmare Gods, the psychotic, demonic freakazoid that is busy. Oh yeah, that's the hotness. Mind blown. I've had a lot of people tell me that, Finley. I've had a lot of people tell me that, especially after Dawnbreak. It's really interesting to see how polarizing that book is, because there are some people that have lauded me, that have absolutely praised me for going there. And it was actually when I was writing Exile's Return, my first book, the motto for production was "No sacred cow left alive." I wanted my writing to be in defiance and in contrivance of what people expected, of what people held sacred. I was not going to be afraid to wipe out a main character. I was not going to be afraid to let the bad guys win and the good guys lose, because I wanted my stories to reflect a level of realism that you don't see a lot in modern fiction. For me, that element of authenticity, even though we're in a fantastical world with fusion reactors and hydroponics decks and all of this fanciful, far off technology that we can only hope for now, I wanted it to have that grain of reality, because then you don't know what's coming next. And that's the thing. With Nightmare Gods, it's a mystical, like parallel world that's modern to us. It's congruent with our time and our reality, except there is magic. It is urban fantasy. But I take that same kind of approach. You know, in a world where there are only a few people and a few beings that have magic, and magic gives you undeniable power. When it's in the hands of someone that is not just necessarily evil, but a pure manifestation of chaos and entropy, buckle up, buckaroos. It's going to be one hell of a frickin' ride. And even the quote-unquote good guys in Nightmare Gods are not that good. Maya can attest to this. When she was reading it, she came to me and asked me, please tell me you are going to kill Sean. And he's one of the main characters. She hated him with a passion. And what did I tell you, Maya? I told you I'm going to make you love him. And you did not believe me. But, once again, don't want to give too much away. Stay tuned. After Exile's return, by popular demand, we are going to get into Nightmare Gods. And Finley, I greatly appreciate that. When I wrote Exile, I did have a serious self-confidence issue. I was a new writer. I was very sensitive. I was very vulnerable. Now that I've matured as a writer, I still have a serious self-confidence issue. Um, the fact that I have patrons, I have 9 patrons, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the fact that 9 people believe in me enough to buy me at least 1 cup of coffee every month. And by the way, that whole cup of coffee analogy, I borrow it from a conservative Catholic that I've watched videos on before. Because I like to stay up and topical, and I like to look at things from multiple angles and viewpoints. I read the news from a wide spectrum. I watch religious broadcasts because it's all fodder, right? You never know when somebody with a mentality completely different from yours is going to give you something that you can run with for a plot. And so it's like one of my favorite hobbies when I'm really bored is I look up like end times fundamentalist Christianity videos about how this event or that event is going to lead to the mark of the beast, or Jesus coming down on a tilt-a-whirl and all beaming us up to space Saturn, or just whatever, because we're talking leaps in logic and derivations in plot and the twisting of words and sacred texts and stuff to levels that would make a yoga master just go, slow the frick down, right? And that is excellent when you're a writer, because you've got all these people that are just diverging 90 degrees counterclockwise to frickin', what is normal life. That's fuel. Where was I going with this? Oh yes, still have a confidence issue. But yes, those people, which is why I watch sometimes conservative Catholic media. They have a completely different worldview from my own, and that helps me be more authentic in my book, because not everyone has my worldview. In fact, most people don't have my worldview. Never going to let you live that down? Hell no. Hell no. Because I consider it one of my greatest achievements. The primary goal of writing for me is to connect with people, to make them think, and to make them feel something. Not control it, but to make them think and to make them feel something. And the fact that I was able, through just the power of narrative, to go from hate to love, that's very powerful to me. And it's the same thing, like I've got those 9 patrons, some of which are Alarians. You know, that is an outstanding show of support. The $2, the $6, and the $10 tiers. I don't care what you're giving. That is outstanding to me. I never thought. I never believed. I still don't feel like I'm worth it. Full honesty. But you guys do. And that gives me a reason to keep going. But that's also why I'm always going to be authentic, or I'm going to strive to be. I'm always willing to let the story be what it needs to be. I tell people that I record for the muse. I don't tell the muse anything. The, the muse is my boss. It's not the other way around. There are my original plans for Rise of the Forgotten and the Farthest Star universe were so radically different. So radically different. And I got like 55,000 words into Rise of the Forgotten. I got there, and then I hit a wall. I had it all planned out. I had all of these ideas. There had been stuff that I built into Exile that aren't there anymore because, holy frickin' retcon, Batman, that were there to be seeds for those ideas. And for the longest time, I didn't go anywhere with it. I was demoralized, for one. For two, my life was very tough, and I was struggling with my publisher at that time and the level of promotion and support that I felt like I was getting. And my forward momentum just crushed. It just crushed. And it wasn't until I really started writing Nightmare Gods. It wasn't until I met Kat and that I took a hard look at it. I let go of my expectations and I said, okay, I need to let the story be what the story's going to be. And the story changed radically. And the universe changed radically. But the second that I let go of what I wanted it to be and I started to let it be organic, it flowed. It flowed. It came. It finished. And that was a very strong lesson for me. It was very strong. Very powerful, and I've never forgotten it. And the fact that you guys show up week after week, that you praise me so, that you buy my work, that beyond that you encourage me. Because, like, money is nice. I mean, money's nice. It's nice to be able to buy things. It's nice to be able to have coffee in the morning and food. All of those things. But the money is secondary to the fact that you guys have made me a part of your lives. That's what the Patreon is standing in lieu of. It's a symbol of that. That's what the reviews and the notes that I get from people are about. It's saying that you guys let me in. And that will always mean something to me, especially as someone that has spent much of her life as an outcast. Much of her life as an outcast. The fact that I can share these ideas, that I can connect with you guys, that all is profoundly meaningful to me. And this morning I was grousing about the fact like I have to stream today, and streaming can be hard because, believe it or not, I am a serious introvert. It's hard for me sometimes to overcome that energy barrier, to pay that deficit, to reach out and connect. But every time that I do, what I get back just from talking to you makes it so worth it. One of the things I was looking forward to when I was getting on today was talking to Finley and everyone else that's here. We've got 4 people watching right now. I'm glad you guys are here, every last one of you. And tomorrow when we do hair raising games, bit of fun. I hope you guys will join me there too because we are a community of people. A small community for the moment, but we're a community of people. And well, Maya, you and I, we connected pretty pretty strongly almost immediately. But that's the thing, the people that I find that are drawn to my work, it's easy for me to connect with them. So, and I've benefited hugely, you know. I've missed you a lot as you've been going through finals and stuff with Starfall. And this is not to make you feel guilty. It's just to let you know that the difference that you make is so huge. I definitely know when you aren't there. You know, I've been kind of venturing forward on my own with input from the IT department and doing the best I can, but I'm really excited that you're starting to get back into it because I'm looking forward to seeing those notes, those observations. Long story short, rambling hair being the rambling hair, you all make a huge difference in my life, and I'm grateful for every last one of you. And if you are ever questioning your worth in this world, just know that you've made a difference with me. You've given me a reason to keep pushing, keep trying. And I hope at the very least that gives you a little bit of warmth to crowd around in the cold times and the hard times. All right. Modulant may be sappy, I know, but that's just kind of how I roll. So it's been 20 minutes of me rambling about my own self-worth or lack thereof and future projects and all of that. What are you guys up to this week? Talk to me. Let's get into it. And I'm excited. I'm glad that you're getting into it, Maya. But where we last left Snow, she was being used as a stand-in for a tether ball. Pretty awful beating ensued. Um, and then she got knocked out. And so where we pick up today is what I like to call the Charlie chapters. And we'll actually talk more about these headings that I do later on. Because for any of you that haven't read Exile, that are going with me week after week as we read it, I want to make sure that we don't spoil any surprises too much. So there's our recap. That's all set up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the stream into a pause mode for just a moment. And then when I get back, if there's no questions or comments, concerns, cease and desist orders, things of that nature, remember, please hold all death threats till the end of the stream. We'll get into it. Sound good? Alright. We will be right back. Well, hello everyone. We are back. It's good to be back. Sorry for that bit of a delay. Let me tell you, having that be right back stream, very useful for me. Very useful. So, unless there are any questions, comments, concerns, remember, please hold all death threats until the end of the stream. One thing though I want to touch on before I start the reading today, and I'm going to actually bring this up tomorrow too during hair raising games. Earlier in the year on one of our live streams, we started talking about the struggle for freedom in Hong Kong. And I promised I'd be keeping you guys updated as I knew things, and I also promised that we wouldn't be forgetting it, nor would we be dropping the continual exposure as much as we could of the Chinese Communist government's brutal repression and destruction of the rights and freedoms of the people of Hong Kong. COVID-19 really messed up the movement, as one could probably expect. There wasn't a lot of ability to gather in mass and protest and things like that. Things have been getting going again, and once again, the Chinese communists being communists, they are cracking down brutally without any kind of morality or care for anything but the maintenance of their own power, which is what normally happens when you have a fully communist system. But we will continue to raise awareness. A recent independent investigation of the police force has come out amazingly justifying the use of force against the protesters, um, which isn't much of a surprise. Um, and this is why communism is bad, folks. You know, it's one of those things that looks good on paper, but just remember, antifreeze tastes sweet, but it causes crystallization in your kidneys and brain and will kill you. Communism is very much the same thing. It looks like paradise when in reality it is a doorway to hell. And there are people that are fighting and dying in Hong Kong right now for trying to cling on to the barest hint of their rights against a brutal and oppressive regime that knows only the maintenance of its own power and authority. Um, we try not to get too political here at Studio Prey. We try not to get too political here on readings with Rebecca. But freedom matters. Freedom matters. The rights of people matter. And when people's rights are not respected, I don't care if it's in this country or any country, to quote Picard at the drumhead, some of the greatest writing in all of Star Trek, when one person's freedoms are trampled upon, we are all damaged. So please remember them. Please keep up the attention. Keep talking about it. Um, you know, and it's very unlikely they'll ever see this because it's an unlisted stream, but we'll be talking about it some also tomorrow with hair raising games. I'm not a very loud voice in the world, but I will be the hair that roared at the top of her lungs for these people. And we will not forget the brave freedom fighters of Hong Kong. And you know, yeah, we'll just kind of leave that there. All right, enough of the serious stuff. uh, yeah. I'm sorry. It really does bother me. I keep thinking about this one comic that the protesters made, and they were talking about what you can do and all of that. But the last thing they asked for was, please remember us when we're gone. They don't believe that they will be able to be fully successful. They believe that they're going to be wiped out and imprisoned and killed, mentally broken in Chinese concentration camps, very much like what's happening with the Uyghur Muslims. But still, a futile and hopeless in their eyes fight for freedom is better than capitulation under the Chinese communist regime. And that's courage. And that's honor. And that's something worth remembering. Tyranny is never acceptable. Aya has it 100% right. I'm sorry for being so passionate about this, but we could all learn something from those brave souls in Hong Kong. Yeah. Okay. Well, without further ado, I'm sure you're tired of hearing me rant and rave and rail. Got my Texas popping out. Ready to hear me read for a while? I'll take that as a yes. Let's get into it. Chapter 11. We have all gone bankrupt. Wordplay. Chapter 11. Gap in record. Alternate data center available. Error checksum 15A8FB42. C. Stevens. House. Earth. Adapting. I was in the middle of a wonderful dream when out of nowhere I heard a repetitive rhythmic beeping ringing cacophonously within the walls of my perfect fantasy. Blearily, I opened my eyes and said to no one in particular, "It can't be revelry yet. We were still at the bar. It's not fair," I said, as the tone assaulted my now awake ears once again. "Stevens here. What's worth waking me up at 0300? I asked testily. "Lieutenant Commander, this is ship security. There's been an attack on the Ambassador. You need to report to the med bay immediately," he answered flatly. "Oh shit. How bad?" I felt a cold chill. "She's alive. That's all I know. Now, I suggest you move it, Commander," he said with authority. "Aye, aye, Stevens out," I said as I shot out of bed, got dressed, and made my way for the med bay. I made it there in record time, panting and out of breath. Of all the things that could have gone wrong, this was the worst. If she was suddenly unable to perform her duties, then my mission... Well, come on. My mission was a failure, and that could mean bad things for the entire alliance. The doctor approached, snapping me out of my reflection. "Commander Stevens, good morning," the doctor said, with an air of detachment. "Not so far, all due respect," I countered. "Noted. Still, the news isn't all bad. I do think she'll recover." "Think? What do you mean, think?" I demanded. "I'm not an expert on her biology, and we don't have a full suite of equipment for a morphic of her type. It wasn't feasible to retrofit an entire medbay for her. Still, she's stable, and her internal systems are showing to be repairing the damage. I'd say the odds are high she will make a full recovery." "Very well. I'll need a full report from you so I can debrief command on my side of things. When can you have that to me?" I asked, dreading that call. "You should have it by 0700, he said efficiently. "Thank you. I hope you understand that for the duration of her stay here, I will be here as well." "Understood. If you will excuse me, I'll get to work on my report." The doctor retreated into his office. "Well, dear," I just spilled pop all over my cellular telephone. Just a moment. I grabbed a chair and set it next to the bed where my charge was convalescing. It was never much for the morphic stuff. Just didn't make much sense to me, but live and let live. Still, it was evident that other people didn't share the same tolerances that I had. I sat down with my datapad and started authoring my report. According to protocol, security would have already notified command, so I relied on that chain and did my best to prepare for the morning ass-chewing I would receive after the Admiral had finished his coffee at 0700. I sat there, writing in official speak, the same as I had done for my entire career, and used the familiar routine to let my mind drift over the situation. Something was nagging me. It was unusual for snow to be on the ship. That went without saying. But that alone wasn't enough to motivate a well-planned attack. As I reflected on the situation, the doc brought his report well ahead of schedule. I thanked him and looked it over. It confirmed my worst fears. A security nightstick was found at the scene, and her body bore the evidence of massive blunt force trauma to the head, her forelegs, and her ribs. Broken bones, a skull fracture, and contusions showed that they had meant to kill her. No one non-augmented could have survived that beating. Luckily, the people involved didn't know enough about morphics to do a more thorough job. I set to writing my official report and started to feel a bit sleepy. Setting it aside, I asked the doc to have his nurse wake me at 0700 and settled into the chair for a fitful second half of sleep. The time passed quicker than it should have, and before I knew it, a nurse was shaking me awake. The doctor had long since gone to catch up on lost sleep himself. I asked if I could use his office, which had a good view of the med bay, and she said I could. Sitting down behind the desk, I began the procedures to establish a secure channel. The console showed its progress bar, and after a minute, I saw the confirmation of a secure link. It was quickly replaced by the image of a very unhappy admiral. "Stevens? Just what kind of show are you running there? You are in charge of her security, and I get a report this morning she was almost beaten to death? Just what in the fuck are you doing out there?" he demanded. "Admiral, I was operating under the assumption that the room was secure. Only essential personnel have been briefed to her mission. People know she's here, but something is off about this. I'm working on my report now, but in my opinion, this was planned in advance, sir. They knew exactly where to hit her," I said, flatly relating what I knew. "What evidence do you have of this?" the Admiral asked, his face still red. They knew the precise locations of her quarters, struck in the middle of the night, and somehow they were able to get their hands on sticks from ship security. My ability to investigate further is limited, but if there wasn't at least command involvement, that shouldn't be possible, I said. The Admiral's face faded to white, then went back to red. "Damn it! This confirms something the command has been worried about for months. Stevens, you know how tense things are on Earth, but there is some evidence that the military is compromised by anti-alliance dissidents." Dissidents? Forgive me, sir, but that's a serious claim. I know the Mendean alliance isn't popular, but a section of the flotilla going rogue could be disastrous. How bad could we be compromised? I said, feeling a surge of worry. That's the thing. We don't know how deep this goes. Intelligence is investigating, but we don't know who we can trust. The Mendeans are a powerful tool for fear in the right hands. They are considerably more advanced than we are. It's unlikely we could mount any sort of effective defense if they decide to throw down the gauntlet. And in addition, there's the questions of their motives for pushing the morphic technology on us along with the gate network. There are many who feel that the morphics are the first step in a possible invasion of Earth. That's crazy, though. In the years since the Treaty of Gates, there hasn't been one hostile action between the Mendians and Earth. Our relations are stable, if mysterious, and as advanced as they are, they have a consistent upper hand. Logically, if they wanted to take us over, they would have done it by now, I said, trying to work it out in my head. Not everyone agrees with you, Stevens, and with the United Earth Alliance only being 51 years old, things are more fragile than they should be, the Admiral said, leaning back. 51 years old, but still World War III was the costliest yet. New Delhi, Washington, D.C., St. Petersburg, and Guangzhou are still radioactive. You'd think we would learn, sir, I replied. He leaned forward. Never underestimate the human drive to slaughter one another. My grandfather talked about the nuking of New Delhi. We lost family there, the Admiral said darkly. If we aren't careful, the Mendian alliance could be the end of the Earth alliance. I have transmitted orders to McKendry. You or he are to be by the ambassador's side at all times. He will be meeting with you in the next half hour with a rifle. Your mission and her survival are your top priority. Do you understand me? Your orders are amended to give you total discretion to guarantee the ambassador's safety. Aye, aye, we will get her there safely, I said. See that you do. A lot is riding on her success. Admiral Chopra, out! I leaned back in my chair. This was big, and again I felt a slight chill. The entire success of the mission could be all that prevented a civil war within the ranks. Stood up, straightened my uniform, took my post by the ambassador, intent on keeping her safe. It was almost 0800 when Vice Admiral McHenry arrived. He had a rifle slung over each shoulder and my personal sidearm from secure storage along with coffee. He smiled on seeing me and set down the arms and then offered me coffee. Thank God. You're a lifesaver, Admiral, I said cheerily and sipped the hot, life-giving beverage. Seems to me you would need it after the night you had. Just how bad did Chopra chew on your ass this morning? He asked. I think I still have some left. Still, it's understandable. This was a serious breach in her security, I replied. He's a gruff son of a bitch, but he's damn good at what he does. Tell me, is your package secure? He said. Yes. The target seemed to be her and her alone, I answered quickly. It's in secure coded storage on the LRRC. Good. We can't afford another hiccup. Chopra informed you about the amendment to your orders, I assume, he asked as I nodded, buckling my sidearm around my waist. Absolutely. Total discretion to ensure her safety and the success of the mission, and either you or I are to be by her side at all times, I replied, relating them back to him for clarity. Good. Now, just how bad is she? I related her condition to the Admiral, and he nodded gravely, then spoke. I'll take watch here. I want you on the hunt. UEA Command is updating your clearances. Proceed to your quarters and start a parallel investigation with ship security. You will report to me directly. Understood? Crystal, sir. We will get to the bottom of this. Very good. Now get to work, the Admiral replied. Aye, aye, sir. Chapter. So, something or some things are going on. There's concerns of a growing dissident movement within the ranks of the UEA fleet. And it seems that Charlie has a wider mission than just Snow's protection. And isn't that interesting? Questions, comments, concerns? If not, we'll jump right into the next chapter. I'm just going to wait for everything to catch up. And 121,650 words. Holy crap, that is a lot. If I'm still writing Starfall in July, I'm hoping I have it wrapped by then. will be the longest I have ever taken on any narrative work in one congruent time span since Exile's return. And it is going to be probably near 150,000 words by then. But I feel like I'm getting close to the end. And that's good. After that, I'm going to do some work on Farthest Star and Electronic Souls. Yeah, it's get you right here. Alright, guys. Now, Finley is writing right now, which is one of the reasons why she's fallen so quiet. She's working with a program that I myself have used called ZenWriter, which is pretty solid. And, let's see what that's all about. And, yeah, she's doing the thing. And I could not be more proud of her. So go, Finley, go. You are the bomb diggity-o. Chapter 12. We'll do at least one more chapter and then we'll talk about wrapping for the day. We'll just see where we're at. I was getting nowhere. I've been sitting at my desk for hours, using my new clearance to pull logs, examine patterns of security, but everywhere I turned I hit an all too familiar solid brick wall. I poured myself another cup of coffee and let my head thud against my desk. Somehow it helped, and felt like the most productive thing I had done all day. For the last few hours I had been slowly weaving a picture that was disturbing me more and more. In any normal situation, there would be records as to who was issued the nightsticks. There would be surveillance footage in the corridors and on the elevators, but time and again, there was no trace. The files were missing, but with no sign of deletion. Whoever was helping them had high-level clearance and knew enough about ship security to cover their tracks. I sipped at my coffee and finally accepted the inevitable solution. A senior officer had to be involved. My mind immediately shot back to my call with Chopra. The Rome was on her first mission, and she was the flagship to boot. If this was a wider conspiracy, could it be possible that the senior officers were hand-picked so that the newest ship in the fleet would fall to the opposition in a coup? The idea, which was unthinkable just a few hours before, seemed more and more like a stark and depressing reality. There was no other way to justify the missing files, the sheer, meticulous nature with which the tracks were covered. It all pointed to a wider and higher-ranking conspiracy. I sighed and slumped down in my chair. If that was the case, then this mission was going to be a lot tougher than I thought. My charge might be the hinging point of a coup d'etat. Still, there was always the possibility that if my mission was successful, it could even the playing field and quiet the opposition. I just hoped there was still time. I checked in at the infirmary and was informed that Snow was still in a medically induced coma. Feeling grim and having gotten nowhere in the hours since I started my investigation, I decided to take a circuitous route and make my way back to the infirmary to meet the Admiral. After all, I still had an hour left before I was due to relieve him, and, as I had learned years ago, you never volunteer for extra duty. Moving about the Rome allowed me to take stock of the newest ship in the fleet. Over the next 5 years, they would be phasing out the Shark and River-class cruisers and bringing in these new Wandering-class vessels. I never liked the naming scheme, but in our new, unified world, things like rivers, sharks, and exploration were the most politically correct choice, and supposedly emphasized a post-conflict Earth. There were no national heroes anymore, only international ones. There were no countries anymore, just continental governments. These new ships were supposed to represent the best of us. They were the ones commissioned to explore the galaxy, ever expanding the borders of the frontier. Still, for every deep space vessel commissioned, the UEA built two Challenger-class destroyers. It had been 53 years since the end of the Third World War. 53 years since we had lost a vessel or a soldier in a war, but there were still those of us who looked out upon the night sky and feared rather than wondered. The United Earth Alliance, the first truly unified world government, was now in jeopardy because of the same mistrusting ideologies that had caused the deaths of hundreds of millions. I remembered my grandfather talking about the days before, when countries like the United States, China, or Russia forced the world in line with their political ideologies, but they had lost that right when the missiles fell, and the last major war showed the fallacy of biggest kid on the street diplomacy. But now all that seemed to be at risk. It made me think that maybe the Morphics had the right idea, bowing out of humanity before it tore them apart. Huh, me as a Morphic, now that's a thought, I said to no one in particular, and laughed to myself. I checked my watch and decided it was best to make my way towards the infirmary. Lieutenant Commander Stevens, good afternoon, the Admiral said, as he set an old-style printed book down over the rifle in his lap. Step into the office with me. I'd like to hear what you found. Yes, sir, I'm ready to report, I said in military fashion, but swallowed hard. This was not going to be a good meeting. We stepped into the doctor's office, glass-walled office, and shut the door. Nurses flitted about the med bay checking supplies and going about their daily duties. In an instinctive motion, the Admiral took the doctor's seat behind the desk and said, Soldier, report. I snapped a smart salute and felt my brain slide into autopilot. Lieutenant Commander Charles Stevens reporting as ordered, sir, and then let my hand fall to my side. At ease. Tell me what you found. I let my body relax and put my hands behind my back. In short, nothing, sir. Someone has meticulously cleared the records to the ship's systems, but not in any traceable way. They are missing, not deleted. The Admiral's face turned a shader pale than I was used to seeing. Understood. Analysis. Admiral, it is this officer's opinion that senior-ranking officials aboard this ship may be involved. At this point, there is circumstantial evidence to confirm at least some of the fears of Admiral Chopra, that there could be a wider conspiracy at work here, I said, and felt a chill. How do you advise that we proceed? He asked, pumping me for information. Cautiously. You are my direct chain of command for this assignment. If senior officers are compromised, it should stay that way. We don't know who we can trust, I said, feeling a pang of guilt at having to distrust my fellow servicemen. I'm inclined to agree, but that leads us no closer to finding out who did this. I will do some checking. I'd like some options as to how to recover the information. Think on it, and have a verbal report ready by 0700 tomorrow morning. Keep this off the comms, and use secure channels only. This could be serious, he said and rose. Dismissed, the Admiral said, and I saluted. Then he did, and slapped me on the back. Don't worry, son, we're going to work all this out, the Admiral said in a fatherly tone. I hope so, sir. To be frank, I'm not liking this a damn bit. Nor should you, the Admiral replied. I settled down into my chair and got to work with my datapad for a while, but came up with dead end after dead end. Every now and again I'd hear a whimper, or snow would move some in place. It was distracting, and only served to make me angry. In truth, I felt responsible. If I could have left her on Sentiok, all of this drama would have been worlds away. A nurse came over and injected something into her IV line. She moaned briefly and then relaxed, letting go into blissful drug-induced unconsciousness, and settled down. She seemed helpless, and innocent, and that just made me want to find these people more. This whole mission had been a crash and burn so far. Wait a minute. Crash and burn. That was it. That was the answer. The ship's black box was an untouchable, backup data recorder in case of a disaster in space. No one could access it without being present at the physical location and with command level authentication. The only problem was there was a time limit on the data. If I didn't hurry, the evidence would be gone with the wind. I felt a brief surge of adrenaline as I made my first possible breakthrough. Up and out of my chair, I began pacing back and forth, working over the red tape that had to be surmounted before I could even get close to accessing this thing. There was no UEA policy and procedure for this. This was trailblazing into new realms of paperwork and bureaucracy, which immediately cooled my enthusiasm. I fucking despised paperwork. Still, it was a lead, and a solid one. I asked the doctor if I could use his office, and he hesitantly obliged, not used to so many strangers taking seat over his realm of influence and control. I didn't have the heart to tell him it was only going to get worse. I waited impatiently as the terminal in the doctor's office established a secured channel. Within minutes, Admiral McHenry appeared on the screen. McHenry? Yes. Stevens, do you have something to report? He asked efficiently. I have a possible lead on obtaining the missing evidence, but we are time critical and it's going to be bureaucratically tricky, he said, and watched the Admiral tense up some. Tricky? How? He replied, quickly. It's best if we talk in person, sir. I don't want to sound too paranoid, but just in case. Also, time is of the essence, so if we're going to do this, it's going to entail rattling some chains and favors in command on both of our ends. All right, I'm on my way. I'll be there in 15 minutes. McHenry, out. The screen went blank. The Admiral arrived in 5 minutes, not 15, which did nothing to camouflage his enthusiasm for a break-in in the investigation into the attack. The doctor, upon seeing him come in, looked down mournfully, rose from his chair, and offered it with a "No, I insist," before retreating. I went over the plan. Get authorization, pull the black box, keep ship's command in the dark, and then pull a rabbit out of my ass. It was complicated but doable, but the Admiral looked grave. This is going to make a lot of waves in command. That system is supposed to be off limits except after a disaster. It may not even be designed to access without shutting down the central core. It's a good idea, but if this fails, what other plans do you have? He asked. Sir, without this, their tracks are covered. Barring parking the ship back at command and setting a forensics investigator on the system, there's nothing else I can do. And then if there is an opposition, they win by delaying the mission, the Admiral said, completing my thought. Exactly. The only place the data lives is on the black box now, and only if we get to it in time, I said, pushing that point home. Very well, Commander. If you will excuse me, I have some calls to make, he said, and rose from his seat. I'll update you first thing tomorrow morning. Aye, sir, if we can get our hands on that data, it could be the key to a lot more than an assault on the ambassador. Let's just hope the Alliance can handle it, he replied, and walked out. Snow twitched some as I sat down. I thought I saw her eyes open, but then she went right back down. I had been through similar with my father before he died, but at least here the machines were on silent. There was no rhythmic slow beeping that punctuated every second like it was an hour. There was no mechanical respirator constantly driving the point home, only her labored, barely audible breathing and the gentle murmurs of the ship. It had been years since I had thought of that. I was just out of basic and was about to go on my first space side assignment when I got word. It earned me a hardship leave, and over the next 3 weeks I watched the cancer claim him. He had waited till he was terminal to tell me. It was a decision he made that brought constant regret from my end. We could have had so much more time together. I put away that old memory. That kind of thinking was counterproductive, and I needed to be sharp for what was coming. I checked over the rifle, made sure it was in good repair, and then did the same with my pistol. Satisfied, I got comfortable and settled in for the long haul. It was 2300 hours when I received a secured message from the Admiral. It read simply, "Plan is pending. Looks like a go. We'll brief in the morning." I nodded to no one in particular and decided it was time for a fitful night of sleep. Chapter. So here we are. So, looks like we've got about 2 people in the stream. I don't think Damon or Nega were able to make it today. Do you guys want to call that here, or do you want to push through one more chapter and we'll pick it back up next week? Let me know, because this seemed like a fairly good breaking point. I try to make the readings as inclusive as possible because we have so few patrons. I don't want anyone to feel left out. That doesn't mean that I'm not happy that you guys are here, that I'm not having a great time, because I am. It's pretty amazing going through my first written work. I need to do another edit pass on this. Amazon really seemed to chew it up when we uploaded it, but that wouldn't be the hardest thing. You guys doing good? Talk to me. Talk to me. Solid. Finley, I'll let you be the go, no go for a break here. Oh my goodness, it's Allie. Hi, Allie. It's great to have you here. What do you think, though, Allie? Should we break here, or should we and pick it back up next week? Yeah, we upgraded our net connection mainly to, like, make things better for the stream and just improve quality of life, since we all live on the internet now, especially in this brave new COVID world. But what's it called? It's been really shaky and unreliable at times. It's like me when I take off my glasses, huh? Alright, so we have 1 vote for keep going, 1 vote for break. Allie, you will be the tiebreaker. Alright, buddy. And remember, there will be a Readings with Rebecca next week, too, so that we can get back on our normal schedule. I do it the every other week, partially to accommodate some of our patrons that can only be here every other week, because I don't want anybody to feel left out. Alright. 1 more chapter. Here we go. Chapter 13. Commander? Lieutenant Commander Stevens. Sir! Wake up. A disembodied voice spoke to me. Blearily, I opened my eyes to see the night nurse. Yes? Looked around, made sure everything was stable, then checked my rifle. It's 0630, sir. You asked to be woken up at this time, she said. How long have I been out? I asked, and tried to work the kinks out of my back from the lowest bidder torture device they called a chair. About 2 hours. You've been waking up every time someone happens to walk by. Gotta stay alert, you know, I said, smiling. She was cute, after all. As they say, you can't catch anything if you don't cast the line. Alright, but sir, if you'll excuse me, I need to attend to my duties, she said. Damn, all business. I had no chance. Very well, as you were, Lieutenant. She shot me a quick smile and left. The Admiral arrived about 15 minutes early. We took up our now familiar place in the doctor's office and started to discuss the plan. I just got off the line with Admiral Chopra. Command has transmitted instructions for accessing the black box, but it's going to be tricky, he said. Tricky I can handle. What's the plan? The black box is at the base of a reinforced engineering tunnel in the center of the ship. You can only access it through a series of specific maintenance terminals. This one, Alpha 8, has no camera. You will enter there, use a daily code that will be transmitted to us when you are go, and make your way to the box. Once there, you will connect to the box with a maintenance data pad and retrieve the log, he said, making it sound easy. What's the catch? I asked. There was always a catch. The catch is this has never been tried with a ship that's not in the maintenance dock. Could corrupt the data, or could cause a temporary glitch in the ship's systems, which could lead to detection. Lovely. So if there is a wider conspiracy, this could tip our hand and compromise our entire investigation, I observed. Exactly. Well, you know what they say, join the UEA, explore space, get shot by your co-workers, you know, standard stuff, I said, trying to lighten the mood. You know, you can be a real smart-ass, Commander. I like that, the Admiral noted, chuckling. So when do we want to do this? We're still waiting on the final authorization, but you will get the go soon. Command is as eager to resolve this as you are. If you can provide us with a definitive proof the Rome is compromised, it may lead us up the chain. Understood, sir, I said as the Admiral and I rose from our seats. I'll take point for now, son. You try and get some rest and head up on the information being transmitted to your quarters. You are going to need to be sharp and on point as soon as this is a go. Aye, sir, I'll get right to it. I saluted and left. It's going to be a long day. Chapter 14. Well, that was quick. I'm glad we went through another chapter. Because we get to pick back up with Snow next week. Forget that the chapters are a little, frenetic in Exile's Return sometimes. Well, all right, folks. It really has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys all for your support and your well wishes about my grandfather. He's feeling much better this week. They never admitted him to the hospital, but he did improve. Thank the gods he improved. It was so good to talk to him once he wasn't in boatloads of pain. Well, I know that everyone is a little bit more distracted or on bad data or all of that, so I'm just going to call it here. Unless anybody stops me. We'll see you out there. Remember, next week, next Readings with Rebecca and Hair Raising Games is tomorrow. All right, until next time, onward towards the farthest star. And we are out.